Lashpreneurs. Welcome to part 2 of the 40 things I've learned in 40 years. I celebrated my 40th birthday on February 10th. And so I'm sharing some wisdom. If you missed part 1, go back to last week. I shared the first 20 things of this 40 thing list. And so we're going to dive right into the second half of what I've learned both in business and in life over the last 40 years. God, that makes me sound old, but I don't feel it, which is great. All right, let's dive in. 21. Action creates clarity more so than waiting for perfection ever does. Ooh, your clarity that if you're not sure of like, ooh, which path should I go? Which step did I take? Just start moving in one path. You can also think of it as like, if you're in a boat, you're not going to get to where you're going unless you start moving. You can always turn around. You can always take a turn. You can always reverse, but you can't get to where you're going unless you start going. So action creates clarity more so than perfection ever will. A lot of people just sit on the shore not knowing if they, like the boat isn't quite perfect yet, or don't have the map perfectly aligned. Chances are, even if you did, you'd get in the boat and something would break, or, a storm would come and you'd be thrown off direction anyway. So you might as well just start heading on the path. 22 by Tony Robbins. I referenced this last week. The quality of life is determined by the quality of our questions. Most people ask really, really cruddy questions that don't actually help them get answers. In fact, what I train my coaches on is asking really good questions. So even, and I'll just give you a little hint into coaching, one of the number one coaching questions we ask is, can you share with me what that specifically means? What does that mean to you, right? And that's honestly like half of our coaching is just trying to get clear. If I don't know what the end result is that you're wanting, then I need you to tell me what that is. So you being specific about what it is helps me get clarity. It also helps you get clarity if you can start to ask those questions. Even last week, I think I referenced, if you know that investing in yourself or investing in a program is going to help you get to where you want to be, and you're asking, I don't know if I can afford this. Can I afford this? That's a different energy than, I wonder how can I afford this? Right? How can I do this? As opposed to, can I do this? So just being able to understand how to ask better questions, game changer for you to actually get an answer. And it's interesting too, because I'll be on coaching with coaching clients or even just friends and family, and they ask some great questions, but they don't ever end up answering it. Right? And it's like, man, I wonder why this keeps coming up for me or why this keeps happening. I'm like, stop, answer that question. That's a great question. Have you ever stopped to answer it? Oh, no. Right? The quality of our life is determined by the quality of our questions. If you can ask better questions, you'll get better answers. 23. Most people's self-talk is really shitty, toxic, and highly destructive. If you want to change your life, change the way you talk to yourself inside your own head. After my divorce, this was one of the first things I had to start reworking because I had no concept of self-worth. I just didn't even know who I was. I lost myself from many, many years trying to make somebody else happy and self-abandoning everything that I knew to be true. I mean, I remember sitting in therapy and the therapist asking, well, what can he do that makes you happy? Or what can he do that you enjoy or that makes you feel loved? And I could not answer it. I had robbed myself and deprived myself of having needs and wants in that relationship that I completely just assumed I didn't have any. I couldn't come up with anything. So getting out of that relationship, it was a lot of really rediscovering myself. And part of that was also like, man, I don't have very good way of talking to myself in my head. And it feels really forced and inauthentic when you start because you're so used to the narrative of like shame, right? How could you? You're such a blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, it's you probably wouldn't be surprised how people talk in their head because you probably say the same things. It is really sad. And most of us learn that from childhood, that we have really toxic people that say some really horrific things that we just absorb as truth and they become our personality. We just assume that they're fact because we've heard them so many times, it must be true. But the reality is that you are not your thoughts, right? You are not what somebody else perceives you to be. Even if they thought you were the worst, awful human being in the world. Again, we talked about perspective last week. Somebody thinks you're amazing and wonderful and awesome, right? So when you can start to change the way that you talk to yourself in your head, you will find you don't lack for motivation. You have a lot of empathy and grace for yourself. The number one thing that I probably say to myself the most when I'm having a hard time or when I'm stressed is, wow, you're going through a lot right now. I validate myself before I ever look for it externally. So therefore, I don't have to actually depend on anybody externally for validation. In theory, sometimes it still happens, right? But If you can start to change the way that you talk about yourself in your head, you'll find you'll become your own best cheerleader. And you don't have to seek anybody else to do that for you that may be inconsistent or toxic to your self-narrative. When you love yourself, it becomes so much easier to operate in this life. You have boundaries. You have an understanding that somebody else may take something you say out of context, and that's more on them than it is on you, that your intentions were good. And your relationships probably become a little bit better. I will say that your relationships probably dwindle down. Not everybody wants to go on a self-awareness journey with you. And when you have a lot of self-love, a lot of people don't know what that's like, and so it feels icky, or they judge it. But that's just more of a reflection of them, that they don't have that, so they can't understand it. So I will say your circle gets smaller when you start to love yourself, but you also bring in some pretty freaking awesome people, and you hold them accountable to loving you the same way that you love yourself, right? Like, you're not going to talk down to me because I'm not going to be exposed to that. I know what I'm worth, and I'm worth being talked even respectfully with. So boundaries become really much easier when you love yourself. All right, 24. If there's no profit, then what's the point of having a business? I've had this conversation a couple times in the last couple weeks. Talking to people about, they're not making any money in their business, or they're just barely breaking even. And I'm kind of like, well, why do you have a business? And they're like, I don't know, I've just got rent to pay. Like, in the business, they have business rent to pay. So I'm like, you just have a business to pay the bills of the business? Like, what's the point? Why even do that? Oh, I don't know. Got to figure it out. We've got to figure out how to get profit in the business so you can pay yourself. And they're like, well, but I just love, pouring into my clients or my team, and I just want everybody to be happy. And I'm like, at the cost of your own well-being? Like, we can have some money mindset conversations, but y'all running a business, you should be successful. You should be building wealth. You should have a lifestyle that you enjoy, right? Because life isn't always about work. And the more income you make, and I think this is one in here, the more impact you can have. So why not have fun making more income? Because you can impact more people when there's money to do so with. So if there's no profit, then what's the point of having a business? Ooh. 25, you will find the evidence you're looking for, or your external reality will match your internal beliefs. Another way of saying the same thing. So for example, if you are able to, I want you to look around your environment, wherever you're sitting, and I want you to look at everything that's red in the room and just kind of make a little note. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds to do that. There's not much red in my room. There's a candle. I've got some notifications on my computer that are red. Maybe I'm got clothes on that are red or something. Okay. So if you close your eyes, which again, if you're lashing or driving, please don't. But I want you to tell me as many things as possible that are gold. Some of you may be like, oh, I know this is gold, but you can't name everything. Right? And some of y'all may be looking like, well, that's kind of a light yellowy brown. Like, you're trying to find success by changing the color just a little bit. But is it true gold? Like, I know there's a picture behind me that's gold, and the wallpaper has kind of a tan to it that I could call gold. My couch kind of has a tan to it that's gold-ish. Or is it brown? Right? Our brain will identify evidence of our beliefs. So if you are looking for red, you will find red. But you're not looking for gold, so you couldn't find gold. Right? So if we turn this into what you want in business or what you want in life, if you are looking for reasons why not to do something, you will find all the reasons and evidence to prove why you shouldn't do it. Right? Why shouldn't I, what are let's do imposter syndrome. Who am I to be teaching people how to run a business? Or who am I to be teaching people how to become a lash artist or whatever the thing is? Well, then you're going to find all the reasons on social media why somebody else is doing it better than you, and you're not good enough, and you don't do it like them, therefore you won't be successful, or you don't know how to do it, or you've never done it before, so there's reasons why you shouldn't do it, right? Or if you think that money is scarce, you're going to find all of the money going out of your bank account, all of the bills stacking up, things that need to be repaired that you can't afford to repair. You're going to find all of the evidence to match your beliefs. Now imagine if you changed your beliefs. If you thought money was easy to come by, money was easy to make, that business was fun, what evidence might you find there? Might you see that there's a penny on the ground or a dollar bill in a pocket? Or that a client gave you an extra big tip that you weren't expecting? You can start to identify evidence to match your beliefs, but you've got to have the belief that you want first. Love that one. All right, 26. Success isn't the absence of problems, it's the ability to handle them. Ooh, let me say that again. Success isn't the absence of problems, It's the ability to handle them. Your business will always have problems. Your life will always have problems. It is your ability to handle them that is successful so that you don't get defeated by it. And maybe you have to keep, trying to solve the same problem and it's just not getting solved. Sure, that's the challenge and the fun of entrepreneurship. So if you can't get clients in the door, that's a problem that needs fixing. Once you get clients in the door, guess what happens? You never have another problem again? No, then you don't have enough time to get more clients in, so your income is capped. So that's another problem to solve for. Once you've done that, maybe you hire a team member and it's like, cool, now I need to build her a clientele. Well, that's a little bit different than building my clientele. So now I need to figure out how to build her a clientele. Well, that's a problem to solve for. Call it new level, new devil too. Like once you get to a new level, there's a new problem to solve for. So success isn't the absence of problems. It is not my job as a business coach, nor should it be your desire as an entrepreneur to never have problems in business. If you're not having problems in business, you're probably not growing. Therefore, the problem is that your business is dying, right? Oh, very meta, very full circle. You'll always have problems in business. They may not get easier to solve, but your ability to tolerate the problems and the discomfort that comes from them over time will get better, especially with coaching and support. Kind of normalizes the experience. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but 27 is failure is essential to success. Can't get to success without failure. You can't know what you need to do to get to the result without learning what not to do along the way, right? And if you somehow amazingly became successful the first time you tried something, the problem then you have is how to repeat it over and over again. Chances are it's not going to stay the same. You'll see this a lot, at least I see this a lot with people who started their businesses like 10 plus years ago, right? And there was nobody really doing, that service in their area, and they kind of built up a following and a demand based on word of mouth marketing and being kind of one of very few, if not the only person who did that service in their area. And then they come to me being like, I've been in business 13 years or 20 years. Like demand used to be so good, but now it's the economy and it's all these different things, all these excuses as to why I'm not busy anymore. The first question I ask is like, oh, what are you doing to market yourself? Well, I don't. Or I tried an ad once, or I post on social media once a month. It's like, you're not marketing. That's the reason why you don't have clients. Your marketing technically was word of mouth back in the day, but even utilizing something pre-pandemic, the things that worked in marketing pre-pandemic are very different post-pandemic, right? Plus, our industry has grown so much, specifically with lashes, and it's permanent makeup's getting there too, where you can call it saturation, but I think it's just more market sophistication. People know what it is now, right? And so there are more people doing it and they're a little bit more savvy. So you can't just be like, eyelash extensions are awesome, you should try it out. You have to be competitive against what your competitors are saying, because especially if you charge a premium price point, we're not competing on price. You need to make the client understand that it's not an apples to apples comparison between you and your competitor, that there is something that's different and unique about you. You can't market the same way that you used to. You have to grow, evolve, and adapt. That is part of being in business ownership. You can get pissed off about algorithms all day long, but most of y'all aren't driving a whole lot of leads from social media anyways. There's more accounts on social media. There's more people on social media than there were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? So there's less, you're competing for attention. So there's always ways to get clients in the door, to work on being able to connect with an ideal client, a target market client, and make yourself stand out compared to the competition. But if you don't actually learn how to do that, then you're going to be ineffective at marketing. Therefore, no matter what channel, platform, whatever you do, it's going to be really hard to get clients in the door. So failure is an essential part of success. This kind of ties back to the one before that. 28 is the problem with people is they think they shouldn't have problems. That comes from Tony Robbins, and I love that. Yeah, if you think that your life shouldn't have problems, you're going to have a long, really problematic life. It's not that you shouldn't have problems. Again, it's the ability to solve them. It is that you should be able to tolerate the problems. You should be able to learn from the problems. The problems are there to teach you and to grow you. So I think a secondary part of this is that the journey of life is about the growth, right? It's all about your evolution and your understanding of yourself. It's not some destination. So I'm going to get into 29 is don't get so focused on the destination that you're miserable on the journey. The destination is temporary. Whatever goal, result, thing you want that you think is going to make you feel amazing, you may have couple hours, a couple days, maybe a couple weeks of feeling really satisfied with it, maybe a year or two before it settles in and it's not that exciting anymore. Not that it's bad, but it just kind of settles in. Again, the feelings are temporary. They even good emotions can't sustain for forever. So that destination that you're working so hard towards is temporary. But the journey, who you become along the way, who you evolve as in this lifetime, that's what you take with you. So if you can focus more on the journey of who you're becoming rather than the destination that you're driving towards, game changer. All right, moving on. 29, we talked about this last week, or at least I referenced it last week, but feelings are temporary. They are not for forever, right? So even happiness, joy, sadness, anger, all of those feelings have the peak and then they come down, right? So you're going to feel really good about something, then you're going to come down. You're going to feel really low about something, you're going to come down. I guess a secondary part of it, since we already covered feelings are temporary, we'll say 29 is that there are high highs in life, there are low lows in life, but most of life is lived in the middle. Most of life lives kind of in the everything's fine, it's okay, it's not great, it's not awful. We live most of life in the middle. So again, when you can focus on the journey of living life in the middle, you can enjoy the highs, you can, tolerate the lows, but you can know that you're always going to get back to that mid-level of life being fine, right? Maybe even life being good. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's but most of life is lived in the middle. Number 30, life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. This is a big game changer in going from being a victim and having a victim mindset to having an empowered, self-aware mindset. Life is not happening to me, it's happening for me. So again, if you can go back to the hardest things in your life and start to look at how did my life get better because of that? Now, it may have taken a lot of journeys. Maybe it became, you went to therapy, or that relationship ended, or that loss then triggered you to go do something else. I talked about Kaya's gifts last week, that happened to me, or I saw it as it happened to me. I was a victim. How could this happen? Why me? Those types of questions, right? Over my processing of that grief and having some perspective and looking back at it, I can look at that being the catalyst that changed the trajectory of my life in a really amazing and powerful way. Not all ways were powerful. I will say that the miscarriage really was where my marriage shifted, right? And we grieved in different directions and we never really fully came back, I don't think, after that. And we both kind of acknowledged that. That grief and that trauma that we experienced with that really sent us in different directions as partners. But my life and the decisions I made and getting into therapy and having postpartum anxiety and panic attacks and the healing journey that I went on to understand my own brain and how it worked with this postpartum depression that I was experiencing and getting into beauty school and then, desperate to have more children. There were so many things, that series of events that happened that was the catalyst for that. Now I can look back that almost my entire life shifted in that moment, and I wouldn't be who I am today without so many of those things happening exactly how they happened, as painful as they were. But if anything had changed in any little bit, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, and I'm really freaking grateful for where I am at today. I'm really proud of who I am and what I've created and who I serve and how I impact people and the parent that I am and, how I show up in this world. And had things not happened exactly how they had happened, good and bad, then I wouldn't be here. Maybe I would have been better. Maybe it would have been worse. But life's pretty freaking good that I don't know that I would change a whole lot about it, that I would want anything to happen any differently. So that's how you can start to look at life as happening for me, not to me. All right, moving on. 31. Confidence doesn't come from a comfort zone. Oh, that one sucks, right? Confidence doesn't come from a comfort zone. What is confidence anyways? Confidence is not something that you have before you take action. Confidence is having the experience of doing something and knowing how to do it. If I know how to do something, then I'm confident I can do it. If you don't know how to do it, you're not going to have that confidence. So what needs to happen first? Do you need to be brave to start and try something new, and then you get the experience of it, and then you learn how to do it, and then the confidence comes? Or do you need to wait around for confidence? I need to feel confident to do X, Y, Z. Well, you're not going to feel confident until you try it, which means getting out of your comfort zone, because your comfort zone will have you staying stuck where you're at. But chances are the thing that you want is outside of your comfort zone. So you don't get confident at doing a podcast or going live on Instagram or doing a reel or, putting yourself out there or opening a business until you've actually gone and done it, right? I always share, I love this story, but the first time I did an Instagram live, I was really nervous to do it. I was not confident because I don't even know like what the tool on how to use it in Instagram. It was still very new. I don't know if there were many tutorials. So I go live on Instagram for the first time on the Lashpreneur. This is probably maybe a year into having that account, and they just rolled out lives. I know, I've been around forever. And I'm talking, and like I can see kind of people popping on, but nobody was talking. I was like, I don't know. And it was just a gray screen. And I thought, well, that's, whatever. That's just how lives work. And so then I was going to share something on my computer screen because I had my phone up against my computer. So I picked up my phone and I went to go turn the camera around so that you could see the computer screen. And all of a sudden I saw my house in the phone screen, and my house was a mess. My son was a toddler at the time. Like, it was just a disaster. So here I am on Instagram Live showing how messy my house is. And I'm like, oh, the front camera was where the live comes from, right? This was before everybody was walking around with hands. So Instagram had it where the front camera was the automatic default camera. Woo-wee, that was a little embarrassing. Now, I don't think anybody was really watching, but I learned that, hey, front camera goes on when Instagram Live goes on, or you need to turn the camera around. So you're going to get confident from the experience of doing the thing that you're not confident to do. Get out of your comfort zone, because confidence isn't there. Awesome. 32. Self-awareness is not an easier path, but it makes for a far better journey. Oh, let me say that again. That sounds so good. Self-awareness is not an easier path, but it makes for a far better journey. It is my goal to create a self-aware army. I do have a secret TikTok account that I've never talked about from the Lashpreneur publicly. Still pretty small, just something where I kind of go share my thoughts, a lot of this type of stuff. It's called Unblock Your BS. If you want to go follow me there, if you're into the mindset stuff, love to have you over there. I get a little bit of a different side of me, a little more personal side of me, but it is the mindset and the self-awareness side of me. So that, and my tagline for it is, hi, my name is Tara, and I'm on a mission to create a self-aware army because it's lonely in these self-aware streets. What is self-awareness? It means that you're aware of your thoughts and you're aware of your behaviors, and you start to get curious about who you are and how you show up in the world. So self-awareness is not an easier path. It is not a fun journey to go on. I'll be honest with you. It's very tough, because you have to start to look at everything as a mirror to you. So if you don't like something that's happening in your world or a relationship or whatever, chances are there's something on you that is creating or causing that, right? Because we can't control anything that's outside of us. We can only control our thoughts, our perspectives, our beliefs, and our actions. And a lot of people don't want to do that because it's too painful to look inward as to how am I a cause of something that I don't like or something that's hurting me. Chances are it's a belief or something about childhood that you're then mirroring or modeling in your current life, and it's not serving you anymore. So it's not an easier path for sure. It takes a lot of that internal work to really sitting with and getting uncomfortable with who you are and how you're showing up in the world. However, in my experience, it has made for a far better journey because I feel empowered to change the things in my life that I don't want to change. And I don't know. I feel like my marriage keeps coming up because this is where I learned a lot of these lessons, because I did something by asking for the divorce that was against societal standards and what I thought marriage was. I had to rework what marriage was in my brain because I had a belief of what it was, and it was very based on society standards. And, I'm not a religious person. So, the religious aspects of marriage didn't really fit all that importance to me. The government aspect of marriage and the contract didn't really matter at all to me. So now all of a sudden I have just the relationship part of a marriage and, what you perceive as vows. But what I had is not what I signed up for. And it wasn't just me. Like, we both weren't happy. We hadn't been happy, I would say. I mean, we had the miscarriage in 2012 and we got separated in a couple of times, but in 2021 is when I asked for the divorce. At some point you gotta, and I don't want to get on a rant about divorce and marriage, but I had to rework what marriage was to even have the concept and idea to be able to end it. And there was a lot of backlash that happened with that, of family members and people saying that I was making a horrible choice and that it would affect my children. And my perspective was, my children watching this dynamic as what is healthy as a relationship that they should model is way more detrimental than them seeing their parents thrive individually. And it just, at some point, you have to kind of question everything that you've been told or taught to go, does this resonate with me? A lot of us are told things as children that maybe a parent said in passing and they didn't really think anything about it, but it stuck with us of, an identity that we formed around it. And now it's our personality, but now all of a sudden we're people pleasers. And wait a second, that seems to be making me miserable and nobody seems to be caring about my thoughts or feelings. And now I feel lonely and isolated. Like there's a lot of stuff in that self-awareness journey that you can start to peel apart so that you get to choose what works best for you in life. Right? And that's not to say that you're going to be this like selfish being that's going to be destructive to everybody else. I would assume that you care about people in your life. And so you'd want to show up and, have great relationships and fulfilling relationships. And maybe you don't always get your way. That's fine. But what game are we playing when we're constantly ignoring our needs and what our body is saying and living in a constant state of stress and anxiety and fear? It's no way to live. So the self-awareness journey, not an easy path, but it makes for a far better journey. Love it. 33, don't get so focused on the destination. Oh, we did that one. I moved that one up. Don't get so focused on the destination that you're miserable on the journey. Relationships thrive more from the repair of imperfection than in the curation of perfection. Man, these sound like really good taglines. Yeah. My social media girl, if you're listening, will you make some of these into like carousels and stuff? I think they'd resonate really well as like words on a post. So I'm going to say that again. Relationships thrive more from the repair of imperfection than in the curation of perfection. What does that mean? You don't have to be perfect to be friends or in a relationship with someone. In fact, it's impossible. You can't be perfect, whatever perfect means. Perfect doesn't exist. Again, it's like failure. We just come up with a set of standards that we imaginarily hold ourselves to and say, this is perfection. So even in your imperfection, even if you mess up and you make a mistake, what I found in my journey of parenting and relationships and marriage and dating and all of that is it's really, and friendships even, it's more about the repair than it is about having an aspect of never having an imperfect moment. So I'll give an example with my kids, right? Single parent, my bandwidth sometimes, my patience just, it runs out, especially with my baby girl. And so sometimes this Lashpreneur raises her voice, and that is very out of character for me. I am not a yeller. I don't enjoy yelling. I don't like being yelled at. I have a long history of like really being yelled at. That's not fun. And so sometimes I raise my voice just out of sheer the bandwidth of emotion. I don't have anything left to give, and I just raise my voice. And sometimes that's the only way I get heard, it feels like. It's out of character for me. Now, maybe my kids will remember it. Maybe they won't. I don't want my kids growing up in a house where they think that mommy is going to yell and that's what they should be expecting. So for instance, if I'm trying to get my kids out the door for school, we're running behind. My daughter's like, I don't know. I walked in my daughter the other day. She's 6 in kindergarten. And I told her to go get your shoes on. And I told her probably 3 or 4 times. And so now here I am like, we got to get going. And I walk in the bathroom and she's got Kleenex and shaving cream out. And I'm like, what are you doing? I didn't laugh at the time. I was a little more, what are you doing? And, me raising my voice got her to act. However, I was out of character for me, and it's not something that I want her to equate to me, that I raise my voice. So we got her to school. She came home. Her and I have one-on-one time at bedtime, and I repaired my error that I didn't like in myself in that moment, which was yelling at her. And I said, you know what? Mommy raised her voice at you today and she yelled. And that's not how mommy wants to parent you. That's not how I want us to be. I don't want us to yell at each other. So I want to apologize for raising my voice to you. What that does when you repair things is it makes it just a blip on the radar rather than a trauma. To some extent, there's some things that are traumatic, but again, it's the repair of it. It is looking for the grace instead of me feeling shameful about it. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I was such an awful mom. It's like, okay, I didn't like that. I didn't like that about me. And so I'm going to own it. And I'm going to model for my kids that we make mistakes and we can apologize for them. We can own them. And I always wrap it up with, I'm going to try to do better, because I really do try to do better. Anytime I start to feel frustrated, like I'm going to raise my voice at them, either I take myself out of the situation, I go regulate myself, which last week we talked about that being a great gift. If you can regulate your emotions, I communicate, hey, I'm getting real frustrated. I don't want to yell. Can we work together to find a solution? I really try to model that for my kids. Doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect and never yell at my kids again, because I'm not a perfect human and I'm not a perfect mom. It is the repair that allows for the connection to maintain, or if we've disconnected because I've done something, then we can rework and repair that connection. So the repair, relationships thrive more on the repair of imperfection than in the curation of perfection. All right, moving on. If you're not crystal clear on what you want, you'll never get what you want. We referenced this a little bit last week. So if you're not crystal clear on what you want, how do you know when you get there? If you're like, I want a successful business, well, how will you know when you have one? To some extent, I can point out things that are going really well in your business and label that as a success. So if you have something that you're trying to figure out the how-tos, how do I get to this? How do I get to that? And you don't know which path to take, whether it's A, whether it's B, whether it's C, whether it's D, you're trying to build a bunch of bridges, a bunch of revenue streams, whatever it is, chances are you're not really clear on what the end result is that you're working towards. You can say more money, but what does more money mean? Building out multiple revenue streams doesn't exactly mean more money. I know. It sounds illogical, but here's the thing. When you're building out multiple revenue streams, you are spreading your time and money across multiple different businesses that you probably don't even have a profit producing first business before you start building out 2 to 3 different businesses. So let's just say you're a lash artist, you want to build out a team, you want to become an educator, and you also want to have a product line. I hear that all the time because I want multiple revenue streams. I want passive income. Well, guess what? Each one of those are separate businesses. I mean, you being a service provider and you hiring a team, same business, you're just outsourcing the service part of it. But becoming an educator in a product line, you've got to learn e-commerce. You've got to learn online marketing to be an educator. I am a full-time educator, and 90% of my time is doing marketing and sales and mentoring my team and training my team and trying to get support so I can get some more time back. I spend very little time actually educating, right? Podcasting is a little bit of educating, but that's really more marketing. So your time being an educator is very, very small. Most of your time is spent marketing and sales, and then you have the fulfillment of it. So you're creating a whole second business that's going to take a lot of time and bandwidth and to get it up and running. If you're doing a product line, my God, you've got research and development on the products, you've got shipping delays, you've got vendors you've got to deal with, you've got to deal with customers and the shipping to the customers. You've got to get the product in the customer's hands. You've got to, do the marketing to get people to buy it. You've got to go to trade shows to get it physically in people's hands. Like, it's creating a whole other business. So instead of having all these different businesses, have one business that gets you to the result you want. Then if you want to, you can build out a second business. But having multiple businesses doesn't get you to the result of having more time or more money any faster. So if your goal is to have more time and money, chances are, if you got real clear on that, you would recognize that having 30 or 40 different businesses isn't the way to do it, or even 3 to 4. All right, where are we at? I think we're on 30, we'll call it 36. Focusing on problems creates more problems. Focusing on solutions creates more solutions, right? It's kind of like you're going to find the evidence you're looking for. So if you're focusing on all the problems you have, you're going to start to find more problems. Then you're going to probably duct tape some problems to create a solution, but that's going to create new problems. So if you focus on a solution, what is it that is actually the result that would fix this? You will find those solutions. A problem does not exist without a solution. It's universal law, right? It's the yin to the yang. The second there's a problem, there's a solution out there. You just have to figure out what that is and what you would label as the solution. So for example, if you, let's say you're not making enough money. I don't know why my Lashpreneur Society, so a couple of people have done this and I've heard it and I'm just kind of like, this is interesting. So, they're like, okay, February looks really slow. My sales have been kind of a little bit lower in the last 2 months, seasonal dips, but I really want to try to find a way to increase sales. So I think I'm going to offer like a discount on my current client services as like a loyalty thing and a thank you because I'm so appreciative of them. I'm like, skirt, what? So your problem is that your sales are declining, and your solution is by declining your sales even more by showing your current people loyalty. Why? Well, I'm afraid they're going to leave. What evidence do you have that they're going to leave? They're the ones that are coming in day after day or week after week, keeping your business afloat. Go find more people. The solution is marketing and getting new clients in the door, not discounting your sales already on the members that are already there. They're not showing you evidence that they're going anywhere. So that's just one example. But focusing on problems creates more problems. Focusing on solutions creates more solutions. Where's your focus? All right, we're getting towards the end. 37. You can't thrive sleep deprived. If you're stressed and you're anxious, first question I'm going to ask you is, how are you sleeping? Not well. That's the first thing to solve for. You can't come up with creative solutions. You can't solve problems. You can't even wrap your brain around what building a thriving life would look like if you're not at the bare minimum getting sleep. Your mental health is more about your body than it is about your mind. If you can't get your body regulated, good luck with your mind, right? You are having a bunch of hormones being dumped into your body. And so being able to regulate your body, get your body moving, get your body the necessities to function is where mental health starts. Okay. And mental health is a full-time job. Hate to break it to you. If you struggle with anxiety and you kind of constantly, it's not just situational. I am one that's just constantly, I wouldn't say struggles with anxiety. I'm pretty clear of it, but definitely is something that I'm more prone to. Why am I less anxious now than I've ever been? Because I take care of my body first and foremost, right? I am not 100% perfect at it, but I work out 4 days a week because I know if I don't, I tend to be more anxious. I carry that tension in my body. When I'm having really more anxious episodes where my body feels stressed and working out and, getting enough sleep isn't cutting it, then I do breath work to move the energy in my body that's stuck. If you notice anxiety, it's a physical tension in your body. We usually equate it to the thoughts we're having. There is a mind-body connection. But until you can get your body to relax, it's hard to work on the mind. I'm all about perspective shifting, and sometimes that does help. But you can shift your perspective. You can get therapy. You can talk it out. You can come to a logical solution. But if your body has not let go of it, then you're right back into the anxiety. You're still having anxiety, even though your brain has made sense of it. So you start with your mental health in your body first, and then you can work on the mind. You can go to therapy all day long. I went to therapy from the miscarriage until, I still am in therapy, but I was in therapy once a week for years and years and years and still struggled with anxiety, still couldn't relax, was eating my feelings. That's why I was 40 pounds heavier several years ago. Started drinking to numb, had all of these ineffective tools to help me try and calm my body down. Now that I've shifted it where my body is the first thing I take care of by good sleep, trying to eat healthy, not going to food for an emotional comfort, moving my body, getting sunshine, then the work that I do in therapy and in coaching and the mindset work that I do is a lot more effective and a lot more long lasting. All right, we're wrapping it up. 39, your state of being, your personality, and who you are is not permanent or fixed. You can change, you can learn, you can grow, and you can evolve. People who say it's just the way that I am, take it or leave it. No, it's who you're choosing to be. And if that is destructive to the people you care about in your life, that's on you, boo-boo. Right? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to change yourself for somebody else. For sure, we don't need to do that. But you are not fixed. You are not the same today as you were yesterday or 20 years ago. Now, some people want to argue with that. Bring it on. Happy to point it out to you. When we have such a rigid, locked in place view of who we are, we rob ourselves of growth. We rob ourselves of evolving and becoming better versions of ourselves. It is the way that it is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I always think that there's choice. So, I have very much changed who I am in the last, definitely 10 years. But, I'll go back to the marriage. Who I was when I met my ex-husband is vastly, drastically different. So it is kind of hard to think that, when we met when I was 23 or 24, no kids, no responsibilities, wanted to be a stay-at-home wife and mom. He was in the military. Those changed over the years. And to some extent, we didn't keep connecting and keep, heading in the same direction. We started going in very different directions. But I evolved and I grew and I became more compassionate and empathetic. And he kind of just became more sad. He struggled more. And so we were very different people. So it was really hard for us to connect and relate because we were both changing, but just in different directions. And I don't think we took the time to stop and actually learn who the new versions of us were. Maybe we tried to keep what was, what worked for us in our 20s once we had kids. And that's definitely very rarely works. Who you are is constantly evolving and changing. And so that's where the self-awareness part comes in, is that who do you want to be? If you could improve some aspect of yourself, maybe I want to be a better business owner. Well, that's going to require you to evolve and change. You can't keep doing the same things you're doing to think that you're going to get the same or different result, right? It's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So you're probably going to have to get out of your comfort zone. The comfort zone is who you are. Getting out of your comfort zone means that you're challenging and testing a new version of yourself. So your state of being, your personality, and who you are is not permanent or fixed. You can learn, change, and evolve, and it's a choice to do so or not. All right, last one, number 40 of the 40 things I've learned in 40 years. You have over 60,000 thoughts a day. They can't all be true, and you get to choose your thoughts. Right? You've probably had, I don't know, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 thoughts just in this podcast series that we've done for the last 2 episodes. New ideas have come in, old ideas have come up. Maybe you've remembered things have been brought up. Not all of those are true. Your brain can't tell the difference between what's happening inside your head and what's happening to your external reality. So if at any point anxiety was brought up by what we were talking about, your brain thought you were back in whatever it is that you're believing. If you had some laughter and some fun, your brain was in the presence of that fun. Your feelings are going to represent what's happening in your head. So that feeling you have is based on a thought, right? Which is triggered from stimuli in your environment. But you don't always have to keep thoughts, right? So this is how I combat intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are just thoughts that come in unannounced, very little stimuli or trigger that you're aware of. And all of a sudden, we wake up in the middle of the night, we're stressed out, right? Or we had a bad dream and now we have these thoughts. I help my kids with bad dreams all the time. I change their perspective on the thought. I had a bad dream, Mommy. Okay, let's talk about it. Just, high level stuff. We don't need to get into the details. Like, oh, somebody broke into the house. Okay. All right. So do you notice that nobody is in the house except us? Do you need me to go check? I'll go check. Right. Okay. Okay. So went and checked. There's nobody in the house. Okay. So do we realize that was just a thought we had in our head? Yeah. It was scary though. Oh, I bet it was. But here's the thing. It didn't actually happen. So your body is pretending like it happened, but it didn't really happen. So can we focus on the safety that we have because nobody's here, right? We're safe here. We live in a very safe neighborhood. Okay, right? And we start to just get them focusing on safety, right? And then we start to distract the brain. Okay, choose your thoughts. I know that dream is like replaying in your head over and over. So it's triggering your body to get back into fear. But if we start talking about Minecraft or Pinkalicious or Bluey, chances are your brain is going to start giving you the hormones of those more positive or joyful things. So sometimes it will be, and yes, this happens at 3 a.m. in the morning when they've had a bad dream, I'm talking about a Bluey episode. Hey, what happened to Bluey when she did this? Hey, what did Bingo say to Bluey that made her laugh? What did Mom say about this kind of stuff, right? And I just get their brain focused on something else so that the fear that they were experiencing from the dream is now distracted. Couldn't stop the dream from happening because they were asleep. It wasn't within their control, but we can distract the brain so that it doesn't continue to harp down a path that we don't want to go. How was it? Was that good? Have I learned a lot? I feel like I have. So my request to you as my 40th gift that you can offer me, should you feel so inclined, is to take a screenshot, share this, tag at Lessons of a Lashpreneur Show on Instagram. Tag at the Lashpreneur too, but really we're trying to get you guys to connect with us on the Lessons of a Lashpreneur Show page. And let me know which of the 40 things or which idea, which concept resonated with you the most. This is my jam. I love this stuff. Again, if you want to kind of get more into this side of things without the business chat, you can go to Unblock Your BS on TikTok. That's where I kind of share a little bit more personal stuff on mindset stuff. But thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.